Have you noticed a change lately? A subtle yet profound atmosphere shift around your entire life. It feels like the volume has been turned up on reality, where everything that was once familiar now carries a new, sharper significance. It's that unshakable feeling that something immense is not just happening to you, but is being activated through you, demanding your attention and a higher version of your spirit. What if I told you this wasn't random spiritual turbulence, but the definitive signal that you've reached a predestined point, a threshold so critical that every chosen soul must cross it? This moment is a spiritual separator, dividing the before of preparation from the after of true assignment. Your moment, chosen one, is not just approaching, it is here now in real time. This is a direct summons that cuts through the noise of your everyday life. There is a precise juncture woven into the fabric of your destiny that cannot be missed, ignored, or postponed. The quiet season of internal preparation is suddenly over, replaced by an undeniable, divine imperative. You don't intellectualize it first. You feel it in the deepest part of your being. It manifests as a pressure that doesn't feel like the typical stresses of life, but rather a powerful tightening born of purpose and spiritual gravity. This isn't coincidence or bad luck. This is the unfolding of heaven's strategy tailored specifically for your life and your calling. The struggles you never signed up for, the battles that seemed random and draining, are suddenly revealing their true nature. They were the exact training, exercises, heaven selected to forge your resilience. You are currently being positioned by a force far greater than yourself, placed precisely between the limiting forces that tried to extinguish your light and the monumental power that is about to erupt through your spirit. Your ordinary routine and comfortable existence are beginning to feel far too small, too constricting, for the immense destiny that is breathing, stirring, and demanding expression inside your soul. This message has one singular objective: to prepare your inner world for the threshold of activation that is now upon you. Every genuine chosen one must one day stand at this point. It is a threefold process. The moment of internal awakening, where a sacred untapped depth within you is suddenly accessed. The moment of exposure, where all illusions, deceptions, and self-imposed limitations simply fall away, leaving only pure truth. And finally, the moment of irreversible decision, where your spirit absolutely refuses to shrink back into the safety of your former self. The spiritual weight that has been resting on your life, the sense of heaviness, the intense sensitivity, is becoming impossible to deny because the universe is no longer dropping hints. Heaven is calling you by your name, clearly, definitively, and with authority. When this monumental moment arrives, when the atmosphere around you begins to shift with an undeniable force you can't rationally explain, you must already be anchored in the knowledge of who you truly are. Take a deep breath. Allow this truth to settle into the places in your spirit that have been yearning for validation. If you feel this message resonating deeply, if the atmosphere around your consciousness is shifting even as you read this, I urge you to participate in this awakening. Engage with this content to amplify its reach, ensuring it finds other chosen ones who are waking up simultaneously. Subscribe and connect if you haven't yet, because this season demands absolute alignment and spiritual unity, not distance. And right now, in the comments, declare 99. See it not as a mere number, but as a spiritual covenant, a declaration that you are stepping into completion, activation, and divine readiness for the assignment you were born for. Your moment is no longer approaching, it is unfolding. Let's continue this journey together. The pressure point and internal forging, there inevitably comes a time, chosen soul, when the normal, comfortable pace of life suddenly fractures, and a multiplying intensity begins to tighten around your existence. This begins gently, like a low-frequency hum or a shift in the spiritual currents, but the velocity quickly accelerates. The stable pillars of your life begin to shake and reveal their fragility. Emotions you thought you had mastered or suppressed suddenly surge to the surface. Your responsibilities seem to multiply exponentially, as if the universe is deliberately testing the maximum capacity of your spiritual framework. Your internal systems become acutely sharpened, your sensitivity heightens, your dreams are vivid with layered symbolism, and your inner voice, your intuition, becomes impossible to ignore. You wake up with a profound and undeniable sense that an unseen, powerful force is pressing in on every facet of your being. This is not punitive. It's not because you have failed or fallen short. It is the necessary pressure applied to activate a potent, dormant strength that has been hidden deep within you, awaiting this command. This pressure is applied by heaven not to shatter you, but to compel your latent strength to emerge. Think of pressure as the divine tool that must pry open doors that were sealed shut by fear, self, doubt, or comfort. It is the sacred, holy tension that is stretching your spirit, increasing its dimensions, and expanding your capacity to carry the next level of your calling. When this intensity hits, chosen ones feel it on a level others cannot access. You become aware of a palpable heaviness in the spiritual air, not an oppressive weight, but a significant, sacred density, like the calm, charged silence just before a spectacular storm breaks. You sense a vibrating spiritual tension that is distinctly out of rhythm with your physical surroundings. A deep, silent knowing whispers within, "Stop, pay attention, the foundation is shifting." In this season, the necessary isolation you experience suddenly transforms from feeling like loneliness into a powerful, essential period of incubation and preparation. Old, restrictive cycles that defined your past abruptly shatter. Behaviors, environments, and even patterns of thought that you once tolerated suddenly become unbearable and physically draining. You feel fundamentally different, and the mystery isn't why the pressure came, but the absolute certainty that its arrival is purposeful. Heaven deliberately ratchets up the training regimen for every chosen vessel just before a significant elevation or breakthrough is released. The great prophets of history all experienced this compression. Elijah before the confrontation on the mountain, Daniel before his prophetic visions intensified, and Moses before the Red Sea became a stage for a miracle. Every vessel selected for a higher purpose goes through a season where life compresses them into absolute spiritual alignment. Before God elevates your circumstances, He intensifies the pressure within you. Before He reveals your new assignment, He must disturb your comfort. Before He launches you onto the world stage, He must unsettle your foundations. This intense pressure is not an attack from the enemy. It is the divine sculptor refining the vessel. It is the architect revealing your inherent structure, your hidden resilience, and the vast potential you have yet to fully tap into. Pressure is the fire that exposes the strongest metals of your character and forces the weak, limiting compromises to break off. It shows you precisely what you are capable of once you abandon your reliance on the old, survival-based version of yourself. And here is the profound truth your spirit already recognizes. This sudden, escalating pressure is the first undeniable signature that your divine moment is imminent. It's the point that redefines your identity and permanently separates your before from your after. It is the necessary compression that allows heaven to prepare you to carry a spiritual weight that, just weeks ago, would have completely crushed you. But understand this crucial sequence. Pressure always precedes revelation. If the intensity in your life has been increasing, it is the clear indication that something infinitely greater is moving toward you. The opposition and resistance you are feeling right now is completely insignificant compared to the divine breakthrough that is about to erupt for you. Stay focused, because the next shift exposes a power you didn't even know you possessed. The identity shift and environmental calibration. There comes an unmistakable point in the journey where the internal change within you becomes so significant that its frequency literally begins to bend and alter the atmosphere around you. Before God changes your environment, opens the doors you've been waiting for, or shifts your physical path, He dramatically upgrades the energetic frequency of your spirit. Without any conscious effort, you begin to carry an undeniable presence that conveys authority and peace before you utter a single word. Something sacred emanates from you. It is an energy that cannot be copied, faked, or explained away by worldly logic or personality traits. This is the quiet spiritual announcement that your divine identity has been upgraded, and the world, especially the unseen spiritual world, feels and reacts to it instantly. People begin to respond to you in ways that seem erratic, but are profoundly spiritual in their origin. Some individuals are magnetically drawn to you without a logical reason, simply because your spiritual presence offers a depth of peace, truth, and alignment they are subconsciously searching for. Conversely, others become immediately intimidated, even if you are nothing but kind. They sense an innate strength within your stillness that their deeply rooted insecurities cannot coexist with, and they recoil instinctively. Still others feel deeply exposed in your presence. It is as if your pure spirit acts as a filter, making it incredibly difficult for them to conceal their true motives, their underlying intentions, or their shadow aspects. Your light naturally pushes their hidden darkness to the surface, and you don't even need to verbally discern or articulate it. Your mere existence does the work. And finally, there are those who become strangely, tangibly uncomfortable. They fidget, avoid eye contact, and their tone or energy shifts noticeably because something about your elevated frequency disrupts whatever negative or misaligned spirit is operating within them. This reaction is simply because you arrived. You didn't speak, you didn't act. You simply crossed the threshold. This is the mysterious moment where your presence suddenly becomes a powerful revealer, exposing what people were determined to hide, often even from themselves. Masks slip, dormant energies clash, and spirits respond to you long before the natural mind can catch up. Your silence becomes more commanding than any argument. Your stillness carries more weight than any explanation. Your spirit is now entering rooms seconds before your physical body does. This is the turning point where the chosen one realizes, with utter certainty, I am fundamentally not the person I used to be. This is true not just emotionally or mentally, but spiritually and energetically. Something deep inside you has been elevated, fortified, and expanded, a sacred, undeniable change that is now an inseparable part of you. Like the biblical account of Peter, whose very shadow carried such a potent spiritual impact that it uprooted sickness and oppression, your presence begins to carry a gravitational weight you never intentionally sought to cultivate. Like Daniel, whose mere presence caused the atmosphere in the court to tremble, you begin to observe that people's behavior, conversations, and emotional states shift dramatically when you are near. Tensions rise or, conversely, a profound peace settles. Secrets slip out, darkness recoils. It is not a personal phenomenon, it is purely spiritual. Heaven always initiates the transformation within the vessel before it begins to transform the vessel's environment. When your inner energy changes before your external circumstances do, it is the divine assurance that your full activation is approaching. You don't have to announce this shift. You don't have to convince a single person. The profound change that has occurred inside you becomes its own silent, powerful prophecy. And here is the part that catches most chosen ones by surprise. Your new, elevated presence begins to act as a spiritual magnet, attracting what is destined for you while simultaneously repelling everything that is not. Old connections and individuals who were never truly aligned with your higher path begin to effortlessly fall away. This isn't due to conflict, but because they simply cannot breathe in the elevated spiritual altitude you are now ascending to. At the same time, new, synchronized connections begin to appear. People who perfectly match your calling, your growth velocity, and your evolving purpose. This is not random chance, it is divine calibration. Your presence has transformed into a compass, a spiritual filter, and a living revelation. The atmosphere surrounding you is actively rearranging itself to match the integrity and frequency of the powerful person you are becoming. If you observe closely, you will realize something life-altering. The spaces you occupy are no longer the same after you depart. When God shifts your identity and presence, every other thing begins shifting with you. The divine amputation and true alignment, there is a final, critical threshold in the journey of every chosen one where the divine process stops attempting to negotiate with your past self and begins the painful but necessary work of dismantling everything within you that cannot survive the immense potential of your future. This is not a gentle evolution. It is uncomfortable, deeply challenging, and cannot be avoided, prayed away, or spiritually bypassed. It is a holy and unavoidable collision between the wounded, surviving version of you and the fully realized, destined version you were meant to be. When this moment arrives, it does not politely knock. It breaks in with force. Suddenly, things that provided comfort and familiarity now feel foreign and suffocating. Old, ingrained habits that were once soothing now feel like restrictive chains. People you previously relied on now feel spiritually distant, vibrating at a rhythm that is fundamentally misaligned with yours. Environments you tolerated suddenly feel spiritually toxic and draining. Casual conversations instantly deplete your energy. Your deepest insecurities, those quiet shadows you learned to manage, surge to the surface, not to torment you, but because God is extracting them by the root. Old deep-seated fears begin to tremble because their time of false authority over your life is clearly ending. Old emotional wounds begin to intensely ache because they are finally being forced into the light of healing, rather than being perpetually carried as spiritual baggage. What you are experiencing is not instability. It is a radical, painful, spiritual recalibration. Your spirit knows, long before your conscious mind accepts it, that the version of you that simply survived your past cannot be the version that will successfully carry your future assignment. The specific traits and coping mechanisms you developed to endure seasons of hardship will become your primary limitation when destiny demands you step up. The reason this moment feels so incredibly disorienting is that you are grieving a past self you were attached to, shedding deeply ingrained identities you didn't even realize you had adopted, and systematically taking off the armor you once needed for protection. Armor that has now become far too heavy to wear into battle. Here is the truth that provides clarity and context. Destiny demands relentless evolution. Before God elevates you, he must perform a spiritual amputation. This is not an act of punishment, but a precise divine strategy. He must remove everything that lacks the integrity to hold the immense weight of the anointing you are about to step into. Every fear that could lead to sabotage, every insecurity that could silence your voice, every distraction that could cause delay, every contaminating environment, and every unhealed wound that could cause you to weaken under pressure. This moment feels confusing because you perceive it as pieces of yourself disappearing, but the reality is that pieces of a limiting past are being powerfully released. You are not losing your true self. You are shedding the version of you that was constructed in trauma, shaped by survival, and built in the shadows of past experiences. God is not taking from you. He is deliberately taking off of you. He is cutting away spiritual dead weight so you can run the race without collapsing under the burden of the assignment he is about to place on your shoulders. This explains perfectly why nothing old feels right anymore. The entertainments that once distracted you are now empty. The friendships that once provided comfort now feel profoundly misaligned. The desires that once tempted you now hold no spiritual sway. Your soul is rejecting what your destiny has spiritually outgrown. You are becoming unrecognizable to your own history because you are finally becoming perfectly recognizable to your true purpose. This is the sacred, internal metamorphosis every chosen one must endure, the private spiritual rebirth that must always precede the public, external rise. Before the world witnesses your breakthrough, heaven demands your personal transformation. Before God broadcasts your name, he must solidify your character. Before he entrusts you with influence, he must anchor your identity. Before he gives you more, he must forge you into someone who is capable of carrying it. As this intense inner process of breaking, shedding, and awakening peaks, something profound begins to happen. Your spirit is achieving alignment for a version of life your rational mind has not yet dared to imagine. Fire the roar of activation and irreversible ascent. There comes a definitive stage in the journey where all the pressure, all the spiritual stretching, all the painful but necessary separations, and all the profound internal rebirths suddenly coalesce into a singular, undeniable, and loud truth. God is calling you to rise, not softly, not at some abstract future date, but with immediate definitive authority. This moment is not a quiet whisper. It arrives like a spiritual eruption deep within your core. One day you simply wake up, and something has shifted. It's not louder but deeper, not chaotic, but crystal clear. It is as if heaven has finally turned a key within your spirit, unlocking a door you weren't fully aware existed, a threshold you could only be prepared to cross after enduring everything that came before. This is not the time for hesitant questioning, for retreating, or for self-doubt. This is the season of absolute spiritual activation. It begins as an insistent holy fire burning just beneath your spirit, a flame you cannot suppress, avoid, or extinguish. It interrupts your scattered thoughts. It cuts through your distractions. It challenges and interrupts the complacent version of you that once settled for less than divine design. You start waking up at unusual times with an urgent, electric sense of necessity. You feel an unmistakable force pushing outward from your core, demanding expression, requiring immediate obedience, and compelling profound courage. Your purpose stops politely knocking and begins powerfully pounding on the door of your reality. You feel a magnificent strength rising in your spirit, one that is not born of personal confidence, but of complete alignment. This strength feels ancient, inherited, and undeniably divine. It is the deep conviction that whispers, "You were divinely made for this." This power only feels unfamiliar because you have never before operated from this elevated version of your identity. Then, the clarity descends, not in a blinding flash, but like a powerful light breaking through thick fog. Suddenly, the patterns are clear. The intense, private preparation makes perfect sense. The complex connections are revealed. You understand exactly why God removed certain people and why He meticulously strengthened others. You finally grasp why your spirit survived battles that were designed to consume you. For the first time, you recognize nothing was ever random, everything was strategic. Following this clarity comes an unlooked for boldness. It's not one you trained for or prayed for, it simply arrives. A boldness that feels like your spirit stepping ahead of your rational mind, powerfully pulling you into your assignment. It is a confidence that makes you speak with new authority, walk with new purpose, and view life through a fundamentally different lens. It is a sacred boldness that, for the first time in your life, makes the size of your fear feel utterly insignificant compared to the sheer magnitude of your calling. This is the moment God declares, step fully into the version of yourself that heaven designed from the very beginning, not the version shaped by past trauma, not the one defined by rejection, not the one built on survival, but the version forged by destiny. You feel heaven pushing you forward, not as a gentle recommendation, but as a definitive activation command. You feel the spiritual mantle of your immense purpose settling upon your shoulders. Yet instead of fear, you feel a quiet, profound readiness. Instead of lingering doubt, you feel absolute, precise direction. Instead of hesitation, you feel the sacred inevitability of your purpose. This moment is not about moving into a new season. It is about permanently stepping into your true identity. And here is the fact that catches most chosen ones off guard. When God calls you to rise, you don't rise slowly and gradually. You rise suddenly and dimensionally. Your life does not shift by an inch at a time. It shifts by entire spiritual dimensions. Doors that were sealed shut suddenly spring open. Opportunities actively seek you out instead of you having to relentlessly chase them. people begin to recognize an inherent, formidable strength in you that they never noticed before. Your destiny accelerates. This is the spiritual equivalent of a slingshot. Years of quiet tension suddenly released into an unstoppable, supernatural momentum. But this powerful moment also carries a sacred, irreversible weight. Once God calls you forward into this activation, you can never truly return to who you were. Something fundamental has awakened in you permanently, and that awakening is now propelling you toward the absolute climax of your purpose. Chosen one, take a deep, stabilizing breath. Everything within you is shifting right now, not by accident, not by fleeting emotion, but by the precision of divine orchestration. You stand at the edge of a moment your soul has been perfectly moving toward since the moment heaven breathed life into your essence. This juncture was never random, never going to be delayed, and never going to be denied. It was only being meticulously prepared. Everything that felt like it broke you was actually shaping your capacity to carry immense power. Everything that stretched you was strengthening the foundational structure of your spirit. Everything that isolated you was refining your discernment and clarity. Everything that awakened you was sharpening your true identity. And everything that felt like a catastrophic loss was, in fact, precise spiritual alignment. You were not being dismantled, you were being meticulously constructed. You were not being punished, you were being strategically positioned. You were not being forgotten, you were being forged into an unbreakable vessel, because there comes a singular, undeniable, unshakable point where God stops the private preparation and begins the public, authoritative summons. This is the moment where the weight of destiny stops whispering hints and begins roaring through your fully activated spirit. And that point, chosen one, is absolutely here now. This is not the time to shrink back into old, comfortable versions of yourself. This is not the moment to entertain doubt dressed up as false humility. This is not the time to question your worthiness for the assignment. Heaven already sealed that for you, chosen one. This is your moment to rise. This is the moment where you cease trying to carry your purpose, and instead, your fully manifested purpose begins to powerfully carry you. This is the sacred juncture where every spiritual fracture, every past wound, reveals itself as the essential opening for divine light to shine through you. This is the moment where God fully activates the immense potential He hid inside you long before the world ever heard your name. Heaven has not been idle, heaven has been precisely calculating, and now the spiritual calculation is complete. You are not just stepping into a better season, you are stepping into your true, irreversible purpose, into the fortified identity that fear attempted to bury, into the divine authority that past battles tried to dim, into the magnificent destiny that delay attempted to suffocate. You are stepping into the final, chosen version of yourself. To seal this monumental moment, to anchor it permanently in your spirit, and declare that you are not just a listener but a part of this shift, I want you to boldly comment these powerful words with absolute conviction. I am ready for my moment because heaven has already moved. Heaven has already shifted the atmosphere. Heaven has already decided. Your moment is no longer approaching. Your moment is here.